Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a big supersaw by layering stuff and like some basic massive patches and such, and it sounds like this. Well, the bit I'm going to be showing you is basically these 6 tracks, and you can add a kick drum if you want to make it sound better. But this is not so much a synth tutorial like I would usually do, and it's not so much a general production or walkthrough of a track tutorial. It's kind of a mix of both, because I'm going to be showing you how to make certain patches, like that one or this one, and I'm also going to be showing you how I layer them. So it's going to be a bit different, and it's a bit of a new experience for me. But as 7 Lions said in the AMA on Reddit, make sure when you're layering stuff that everything you put in is there for a reason. So I've got this bass, I've got 2 pads, I've got a white noise, some cymbals and a lead. I could add more, I suppose, but the golden rule is the less stuff you have in something, the bigger you can make each individual element. So don't layer stuff to death. So the first element I'm going to do is the bass kind of saw thing. Now I made this in Sylenth because I like the sound of the saw in Sylenth. You could do it in anything you want, and it's really simple to do anyway, so it shouldn't be too much of a bother if you've got a different synth. But the way I've done this, I've set it to a saw wave, I've given it 2 voices and I've re-triggered it. The volume is all the way up, phase and detune are all the way down, stereo is all the way up, and pan is central. Then under that I've layered a sub, which is a sine wave here. That's only got 1 voice and it's re-triggered as well. You're going to put the volume all the way up on that. Again, your phase and your detune are all the way down, stereo is all the way up, and pan is central because it's a bass thing and you want it central. It's no effects or filters or anything really, but one thing you do need to do on this is go into mod NV envelope 1 and set this first thing to pitch AB, even though we're only using part A. Then what you're going to do is you're going to turn it up to about 2 o'clock, and you're going to add well, first you put all these things down, and then put a smidge of delay on, decay on this even, and that's what gets it the kind of laser attack thing. So if I put that up, which sounds a bit weird when you play it on its own, but actually it works out quite nicely when you play it with everything else. And that's all there is to say about this. So, and then I'm just going to go through the processing. First I've put an EQ on it, which basically boosts every single frequency, which people will frown upon. But no matter, there's some on the bass because this is the sub track. It's a sawtooth as well, but it's also the sub. So, and I wanted more of that, so I've knocked that up a bit. I've also added some to the 200 to 500 region, in fact 355 Hz, with a kind of gentle Q, and that's just because I like that frequency in this saw. Then I've boosted the hell out of the treble, because it gives it a really nice sparkle when you boost behind of a low sawtooth, as opposed to just adding some white noise. So that's why you've got so much out of this with 2 different pans. And that's all to say about that. I have done a kind of a high pass because high passing everything is a good idea. Then I've added this, which is our bass. I did get it for free because of that sale they did. But it's not fundamental to what we're doing here, but it's just saturating the bass area to add some extra harmonics, which fattens it up a bit. The frequency is 56 Hz. The intensity is minus 5.1. And I brought the gain down a bit because when you play a note, when it's at 0, you'll see it clips, which doesn't actually affect the sound much on this, but I'd rather it didn't, so 1.9 is a good place to have that at. So that's all there is to that. It's a nice simple one. In fact, I'm going to label that as, Then I've got two pads, each is a different massive patch. They've both got some similar effects on, and they're both being routed into a bus, which is bus 1, but it's labelled auxiliary 2 for strange reasons. And so first I'll take you through them. This is what they sound like together. The first one I'm going through is this one. For reference, these are very old pad sounds, and they're not very good, but actually you don't need them very good because they've been covered up by everything else. So for this one, this is the first pad you see, you need all 3 oscillators, set them all to square saw 2, not square saw 1, and put everything all the way up. First one you're going to need to put the pitch to 0.89, second minus 0.15, and third 0.2. And then on the modulation oscillator, put it onto number 1, set the phase all the way up, and put the pitch of that to 0.06. Then you can leave everything else alone, but you're going to put a classic tube on it, drive it all the way up, and drive on 9 o'clock. A dimension expander, drive it on 10 o'clock, size halfway, and then you're going to boost low shelf, boost and frequency to about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then take a tiny bit out of the high shelf. Probably not that big a difference I'm making with that. Then what you're going to need to do is go into the voicing, put on 16 voices. This is rather key, so don't miss this bit. 16 voices, and put it on polyphon so you can play more than one note. You're going to add some pitch cutoff and move up the slider so that it's just 1 tick pass. Make sure that's on 1, and make sure it's on chord. Leave wavetail position alone. Pan position, you're going to move it a bit to the right so you can see the mono, the little tick in the middle, but so it's past it. And that's actually all you need to know about this. Then from processing on that, I've got a stereo touch, which is a great free plugin you should get. Delay is on 20.1 milliseconds, and I've turned down the gain of that to -6.8, and then I put a high pass on it to avoid stereo widening any frequencies below 1¼ K, because stereo widened bass frequencies sound terrible, and you shouldn't do that. And that's good. Yeah, and that just adds stereo width. Then I've EQ'd it. I've taken out some of the useless bass, because there's nothing useful down there if you play lower. I've taken a bit out of the mids because I wanted to make some space for the mids in this first bass part, and you can see I've boosted there, and I've cut here, which is what you do if you want to mix stuff. See my other mixing tutorial if you want to know more about that. And then I've put a bit into 2.75K, and then I've taken a bit out of the high treble to make room for the white noise. Then I'll get onto the bus later, but first we're going to do the other pad, which sounds by itself like this. That's also massive. This uses 2 oscillators. The first one is square saw 1, the second is square saw 2. All of the dials are going to be all the way up on this one, but the second oscillator you want on 12. Also important for this, put the mix of the filters up to filter 1 on both of them, and then on the filter section there is a rather pointless low pass filter with the cutoff all the way up and the resonance on 11 o'clock. I don't know why I did that, but we'll just move it swiftly on. The reverb is on effects 1. I've got the dry run at 9 o'clock and the size 11. Density and colour are all the way up. I've also got a chorus. The chorus is on 9 o'clock. The rate and offset are central, and depth is 11 o'clock. And then I've just added a smidge of high end on the EQ here. Then before you go, make sure you go into the voicing, put on 11 voices, polyphonic always, a bit of pitch cut off. This one you're adding a bit more, you're going 4 ticks past the first one, and you're going to put on some pan position, this time a bit to the left. Also another difference is this one's on centered, not chord. It doesn't make much difference, but just do it anyway. You may notice there is a couple of inserts. Neither of them are actually doing anything. This one's turned off, and this one has the crush on 0, so just ignore that completely. That's why I even said it. Then the last thing you need to do on this is go on to the OSK, stick envelope 1 on both the rate and the depth, which is on the vibrato here. Bring them up a bit, like so. Then on here you're going to add a bit of an attack to it. You can stick the decay all the way down, but bring the attack up to about halfway and the level all the way up. And this just means when you play a note for a bit, it starts bringing in a bit of vibrato. It's not really very audible in this because the depth is quite low. But that's all you need to know about the second of those pads. And together they are both routed into bus 1, which means I can process them at the same time without wasting effect slots. So the first one, this is really simple. I've just basically high-passed it because I've mentioned this already. Bass and this sort of thing does not work. Then I've got a compressor. I've heard that compressing saw, like pad saw thingies like this, fattens them up quite a lot, and I think it probably does. So these are the settings. It'll probably different depending which compressor you're using. This is Logic's inbuilt one. And I've put it on RMS. Ratio is very high, and the threshold is -17. And there's a bit of makeup gain because it turns it down a bit. And finally I've added some reverb with this OldSkoolVerb, another free plugin. The key here is that if you don't have this on, when the note cuts out it sounds a bit empty, but if I do turn it on, it's just a bit more of a decay to it and it sounds quite nice to me. So this pre-delay is 29.9 milliseconds. Space I've put down to 16.6. Time is 1240. Width is default on 75. Damp low is on 122 because I don't want to reverb the bass. And the damp high is all the way up. And then I brought the gain of the reverb as a whole down to -12.4 because it's not very nice too loud. So that's your two pads. What we've got so far is this. So it's taking shape nicely. Then we've got kind of two things that work together. First is white noise. Very exciting. That's made in Massive, though really any synth has white noise options. Turn everything off, like literally everything off. Just keep noise on, stick it to white noise, and turn colour and amp up. And then you can quit Massive. And actually, one thing, make sure you do turn the level of it up again. So don't quite turn everything off. Then on that, I added a channel EQ, which takes out all of this bassy rubbish. If you turn it off, you'll notice it doesn't sound very nice. It sounds like white noise, but it's a lot better if you high pass it. And then as well as that high pass, I've added a bit of the really hissy high stuff on top. Then our favourite stereo touch, this time with 31.1 milliseconds of delay, and again that high pass, which is probably not doing very much on this. Then reverb, the simplest reverb plugin in the world, 57 reflectivity, 78 room size, and 33% mix. And that just means when this thing, when this stops playing, the sound actually carries on for a bit. It's not that noticeable. And then that's that white noise. I've also got this splashes. Splashes are basically cymbals, but played constantly. And that again fills a hole in the high end. There's a bit of a stereo touch on it again, 28.5 milliseconds, and everything else is on default. And if I turn that off, you'll notice it sounds considerably worse. So there is definitely a reason why I do that. Lastly, on the main bit, we've got a lead. The lead is kind of an optional extra if you did turn it off. it's okay. But having a lead does make quite a nice melody over the top. And on this one, it's another saw wave, basically. Again, square saw 1, everything all the way up. There are no effects or anything on this, but one thing you do need to do is firstly go into envelope 4, turn the level up, and then you need to put envelope 2 on the pitch of this one oscillator you're using, stick it all the way up to 64, and then bring the level in the actual envelope here down to a third, so about 10 o'clock. Keep the attack low, and then bring the decay to like a little bit, and you'll see if I bring it up. So it's giving it a bit of an attack to the sound, which is good on leads, and I recommend you try it. I have actually got another lead tutorial, which is on kind of a more funky one, which you'd use in Glitch Hop or something. I recommend you check that out. Link is in the top left corner of the screen right now. And then, actually, that's all the main layers of what we're doing. I've added a couple of things, for instance this kick drum, which emphasises the attack. And I've also added this kind of this hi-hat pedal thing, which just means like when you first play it you can actually hear how fast it's going. It's 140 beats a minute, but if you turn it off you have no idea how fast it's going until the next note plays. So and there's a few other things which are just like purely creative stuff which you don't need to worry about. The only thing really left to do in this video is kind of explain what sort of notes you want to use. For the main bass thing, the saw we started with, you want to play a nice low note. I'm in G minor, so I picked G, which is unsurprising really. The two pads I've used exactly the same MIDI, which some people call lazy, and they'd be right. So I've literally just copied and pasted one into the other here. The notes you pick are just the notes of the chord you're playing, the G minor chord. This other chord here is a bit more exciting. There's a seventh in there, there's this beautiful clash here. So if you're in doubt, stick to the notes of the chord, but you can add like seconds, sevenths, sixths in if you want, which does jazz it up a bit. So that's that. This is the white noise. Obviously for white noise MIDI, as long as you're playing a note, it doesn't matter at all. Though I get rather OCD with my MIDI, and even if it's white noise I still change the note, as you can see. But you do not need to do that at all. Splashes is obviously, there's no note you can do with that. By the way, all the patches I've been using for all of this stuff, I'm going to put them in the description as a download, so you don't actually, you don't need to waste your time trying to rebuild all these. And I'm putting a download for this splashes thing and also this hi-hat pedal if you want it, just to help you along. The lead, I can't tell you what to do with the lead because it's a melody you make up. I mean, mine sounds like this. And there's kind of glides up to the notes, because on the Massive patch, I probably didn't say this, there is a bit of glide on it, and also a bit of vibrato. And that just means you can glide up to notes like this one, which sounds pretty cool, especially when everything else is playing. So that's actually all I have to say on this. I hope you found it useful to make your Supersaws. And actually, do feel free to message me stuff you've made with it. I don't really mind receiving messages with this sort of thing because it's nice to know that people found it helpful. So send me messages with stuff you've made with this, and I'll see you next time. And I'll just play this through one more time so you know what it sounds like, in case you forgot. But yes, cheers for watching and have a nice day.